wrestling fans. My name is Bryan Crazy. You're watching my brand, That From Brand of Wrestling, and entertainment here on YouTube.com and the World Wide Web. Since 2010, providing with the wrestling news, reviews, rumors, and insight that you've grown accustomed to. And you saw the title of this video. I am back with my review of this week's edition of the longest-running weekly episodic television show in history. That's right, Monday Night Raw for October 22nd, 2012. It was a pretty good night on Raw. I would have liked to see a couple things play out a little bit different, a few matches a little bit longer, but it was a solid go-home show. They needed to tie up a few loose ends, and they did that tonight. We are only 6 days away from the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. At Hell in a Cell, a lot of huge matches are booked, and a few matches came together on Monday Night Raw. Now, the first one of those matches to come together on Monday Night Raw was the final match in the Tag Team Title Tournament to determine the new #1 contenders for the Tag Team titles at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. It was Team Rhodes Scholars versus Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara, and it looked like Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara had this match won. Cody Rhodes almost looked like he was playing possum, hopped out of nowhere, hit Crossroads 1, 2, 3, picked up the victory for his team. Rhodes Scholars will go on to the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view to square off against Kane and Daniel Bryan, and I anticipate it'll be a pretty exciting match. I mean, you have three technically gifted superstars, and then you have Kane, who really surprises me every time he goes out there. I mean, for a guy his size, he has never failed to please. And speaking of Kane and Daniel Bryan, Team Hell No, before the Rhodes Scholars leave the ring, we see Hell No up on the Titantron. Kane says he's going to tell them and the fans a little joke, and first things first, he grabs Daniel Bryan by his huge beard, which looks like there must be things living in it at this point, and basically, no, just puts him behind him, and then sets off the pyro. Then we go into the second match of the night. Kofi Kingston, who won the Intercontinental last week on main event, goes against, excuse me guys, got a little ahead of myself. He went one-on-one against Michael McGillicutty. Now, Michael McGillicutty is a fantastic superstar. He definitely has all the tools to take it to that next level. And if you guys were fans of NXT Redemption Season 5, I mean, this guy had some incredible matches against Tyson Kidd. Now, he had a very good match against Kofi Kingston. He controlled the majority of the match. It was only 2-3 minutes long, but it was a real technical mat-based match. There wasn't a lot of high flying. There wasn't a lot of that. It was really focused on the mat. We saw backbreakers and sleeper holds and very old-school style match. And I really wish they would allow Michael McGillicutty to shed that persona and become Joe Hennig. Build on the whole thing that he is a third-generation superstar. I mean, his grandfather and his father are two of the most legendary wrestlers of all time. Larry the Axe Hennig and Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig. And like I said, it was a great match. Michael McGillicutty was in control for 99% of this match. Out of nowhere, Kofi Kingston hits the Trouble in Paradise, 1, 2, 3, picks up the victory in the match. Of course, they didn't want Kofi Kingston to lose before he goes into Sunday's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view to square off against The Miz. Then we go into John Cena. John Cena comes out and he endorses Ryback. He talks about how he's excited for the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view and also says that he is now medically cleared to compete. CM Punk comes out in the two trade words. John Cena challenges Punk to a fight, and CM Punk postures. He takes off the t-shirt, takes off the sweater, comes all the way down to the ring, gets up onto the apron, and this is where his manager Paul Heyman talks him out of it. Now, this was a good segment. I really liked how this segment played out. Really pushed CM Punk as the heel, really pushed John Cena as the face in the segment. And that's what you have to have. That's what pro wrestling is based on. And I know it seems like an old concept, but it's tried and true. Good guy versus bad guy. You have a bad guy, he's going to get heat. The fans are going to pay to see the good guy win. And it was really surprising tonight. John Cena's reaction compared to Ryback's reaction, I think Ryback was the #1 babyface in the arena tonight, to be perfectly honest with you guys. And basically, Paul Heyman talks him out of it. And kayfabe, that's what a manager's supposed to do. He's supposed to help his superstar make the best decision. Now, to be perfectly honest, I wanted to see the fight. I wanted to see these two brawl, but this is how the segment ended. Then we go into the next match, Justin Gabriel versus Antonio Cesaro. Justin Gabriel actually picks up the win in this match. This is the second time they faced in the last couple weeks, and it begs the question, will they face at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view for the U.S. title? This was a non-title match, and like I previously mentioned, Gabriel did pick up the win over Cesaro. Cesaro was injured going into this match. He had some pulled tendons in his hand, and you could tell it really affected his performance. Then we go backstage. We see a limo pull up with Connecticut license plates, and as JR would say, business is about to pick up. Vince McMahon and AJ Lee come out, and it cuts to commercial break. You're left wondering what's going to happen, what's next. AJ tweeted before the show that she was meeting with the board of directors, and a major announcement was to come. Then you come back from commercial break. AJ and Vince are in the ring, and she ends up resigning as general manager. She drops the bombshell before she even, starts to tell you exactly what happened. The allegations are that she fraternized with a former employee, a fellow superstar, a fellow employee of the WWE. I swore general managers over the years have done way worse things, but I understand the WWE is supposed to be a cleaner place now than it was in the past. But just some examples. I mean, we had Mike Adamle, who messed up on a weekly basis. Nice guy, just really wasn't cut out for the job. I mean, he was a hell of a nice guy from what I heard. And he brought us Adamle originals, which weren't very original. Then we had Eric Bischoff, who allowed the lesbians to get beat up. It was funny, I mean, I'm not going to lie. And then, let's see, we had William Regal, who abused his power to book himself in the King of the Ring tournament and then win it, even though I'm a huge William Regal mark. I mean, I know there's not a lot of them out there, but trust me, William Regal is one of the best superstars ever to step foot inside a ring. Now, then we see Paul Heyman come out, and Paul Heyman is trying to lobby to get the job as general manager. He's the former general manager of Friday Night SmackDown. Now, this is close to 10 years ago, but I mean, when Paul Heyman was in charge of SmackDown, he was also writing SmackDown at that point. It was a fantastic show. I do have to say, I enjoy SmackDown every single week, and sometimes I enjoy it more than Monday Night Raw, but at that point in time, SmackDown was on fire. Then we find out that Vicky Guerrero is the appointed managing supervisor by the board of directors. She's going to take control of Monday Night Raw on an interim basis. Now, she's not the permanent general manager, and they really don't inform us if a permanent general manager is going to come. Now, my opinions on all this, Vicky Guerrero, obviously, for the last few months, has been trying to get AJ Lee out of power. They had the brawl in the ring. They ended up brawling again tonight after the segment ended, and I'll run through that in a minute. And I can understand how this fits in the storyline. Now, I can understand a week before Hell in the Cell, they don't want to shake things up too much, but maybe it was time to shake things up. Maybe it was time to get a big name back in, a big name in the driver's seat to really push up ratings on Monday Night Raw. I mean, Vicky Guerrero, she probably gets more heat than most of the WWE superstars, I'm not even going to lie, and I think she'll be entertaining on television for the next few weeks, but I really think they need to pull the plug. They need to bring back somebody big, or bring back somebody we would never expect, to really push the ratings through the roof for a couple weeks. I mean, if there's an entertaining general manager, if there's a general manager that either you embrace or a general manager that you loathe so much that you want to tune in to see something happen or see what kind of crooked things that he will do, then that's going to make for must-see television. But then Paul Heyman and Vicky Guerrero end up going back and forth. First, Paul Heyman requests that the championship match at Hell in a Cell is called off, or CM Punk is allowed to make his own decision. She denies that, and then she makes a champion versus champion match, the biggest lumberjack match in the history of Monday Night Raw, for later in the night. Then AJ Lee attacks Vicky after Vicky runs her down, and this ends the segment. Then we go into Ryback versus The Miz, and earlier in the night they made Kofi look real strong. This kind of made The Miz look weak going into the title match, and I understand they wanted to put Ryback over before the big match on Sunday night, but maybe they should have had him go over on maybe like a Jack Swagger or somebody that doesn't have a big match at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. But nonetheless, Ryback picked up the win over the former United States Money in the Bank winner and WWE champion. Then we go into a backstage segment with Eve. She's approached by Caitlyn. Caitlyn accuses her of the attack that happened at the pay-per-view. Now, they end up going back and forth. Caitlyn ended up accessing Eve's iPod, and getting some information that she needed, this, that, or the other. They ended up brawling. Layla ends up getting involved, and Layla said some classic line during all this, and I can't remember off the top of my head. I really should have wrote on my notes. And, Eve went to go attack her or something, and she was like, "Oh, no, you didn't," or "Excuse me," or she said something and ended up smacking her face right into a table. Good little backstage segment. Really would have liked to see a Divas match, but I like that the Divas were at least involved in the show. Even though it was a small segment, I always praise the Divas division, and I always say that if they don't give these superstars the time to shine, they're cutting off their legs before they're even given the chance to stand. I mean, how do you prove yourself to the crowd? How do you prove yourself to the fans if you aren't given the time, if you aren't allowed to prove yourself? I'm sure a lot of you guys out there will agree with me on that. Then we go into Sheamus and Josh Matthews backstage. Sheamus is all jokes. He's playing with one of his brawling buddies, and then the Big Show shows up, and the whole situation changes. The laughs are over, and you can tell that the situation is getting real tense between these two superstars 6 days before their title match at Hell in a Cell. Then we go into Daniel Bryan versus Dolph Ziggler. And during this match, Kane's out there. He's actually trying to support his tag team partner. He's chanting yes when Daniel Bryan's in control, but Daniel Bryan takes exception to this, goes up onto the second rope, looks right into Kane's face, he's chanting no, and because of this distraction, allows Daniel Bryan to pick up the win. He hits the zigzag off the top, the second rope, and that's it. Then we see Matt Striker come out and say that there is about to be an edition of the newly tagged game. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? What are they doing? But it turned out to actually be pretty funny. And basically, the partners get to know each other and this, that, or the other, trying to get to know each other better. And Daniel Bryan says he's the world's toughest vegan and all this stuff. Then Kane says he likes rainbows and sunsets and he's a Scorpio. And he goes, Matt Striker, Daniel Bryan goes, really? And he goes, hell no. And then the Rhodes Scholars comes out, and I gotta say, I really like Damian Sandow's shirt. It's like an ape evolving into Sandow. I'm gonna have to pick up one of those for myself. And I'm a big fan of Sandow's character. I'm a big fan of Rhodes. I'm actually a big fan of pretty much everybody that's going to be involved in the tag team title match on Sunday. And it was just a funny segment. They all went back and forth, and it really was a lot more than I was expecting. Going into it, like I said, I was really curious what was going to happen. I had my doubts. But at the end of the segment, I think it played off really well. And I really like how they went from one match to segment to the next match. Yeah, these guys kind of bit up a good part of the show, but they're an integral part of the pay-per-view on Sunday, and they're trying to build towards that pay-per-view, so I understand what they did with these segments. So then we go into the next match, and basically the Big Show comes down for his match, and he's going to go one-on-one with Kane, and very surprising, Big Show hits the WMD on Kane for the win. I mean, out of nowhere, blow, knocks him out cold, and then the Rhodes Scholars come back and attack. And I really would have thought, even they wanted to make the Rhodes Scholars look strong going into the tag team title match. I can understand that. But as soon as they left the ring, as soon as they were on the apron, Kane should have done the old school sitting up out of nowhere, like him and The Undertaker are so well known for. I understand he was trying to sell the WMD, he was trying to make Big Show look strong going into... I understand what they were trying to do with all these segments, but like I said, a few things I would have liked to see play out a little bit differently. And then we go into backstage segment with AJ and Cena. Cena feels really bad, and AJ says, John, you're the one that I was accused of fraternizing with. I guess they had a business dinner, but Vicky Guerrero somehow made it look bigger than it truly was, thus getting her out of power and gaining the job. Now, John Cena is really taking exception to all this, and he, approaches Vince McMahon. And Vince McMahon really isn't like the Vince McMahon that I'm remembering. I mean, last week or 2 weeks ago, he's out there beating the crap out of CM Punk with a Singapore cane, throwing him over an announce table. And this week, he kind of seems like, he wouldn't even face Cena. He was just like, whatever, and just left. I mean, this is the man with the world's largest grapefruits, kind of just blowing off Cena. I mean, yeah, I understand he's the boss and it's his prerogative, but, I really want to see the old Vince McMahon. And I think that's what the WWE is really lacking. I understand he's a grandfather. I understand he's older in life. I understand he's a little more mature, but I highly doubt it. Vince McMahon's Vince McMahon. That man will always be a kid at heart. But what I'm trying to say is they really need to bring back the old Vince. I hate to say the comb-over's got to go. I'm not trying to insult the man, but he was a billionaire at one point, and I'm sure he's still worth $500 million. And WWE stock's taking a little bit of a dip, but it's still a very, very expensive stock, and it's still worth a decent amount of money, especially if you own 90% of the company like he does. Bosley, man, brush that thing back. Go back to your old style. The pink and blue crushed denim, I can't stand it. Now, I'm not saying that the earth tones was the way to go, but man, I want the old Vince back. I want the ruthless Vince back. I want the Vince that would have looked right in John Cena's face and said, business is business, and it's just the way it is. Life's a bitch, and then you die. I mean, that Vince McMahon, I know you fans know what I'm talking about. Then we go into Alberto Del Rio versus Zack Ryder, and Alberto Del Rio beats Zack Ryder very quickly with the cross armbar. And then he makes an example out of Zack Ryder. He holds in the cross armbar and has Ricardo hold the microphone. And he's just mocking Randy Orton, who obviously isn't in the arena tonight, or he would have came out and probably done something about it. And he's just trying to make an example. He's trying to set an example for their pay-per-view match on Sunday. Then we go into Punk versus Sheamus in the Lumberjack match. And the Lumberjacks were very, very involved in this match. Not like a Lumberjack match of yesteryear. I mean, the Lumberjacks were very involved. And this was a good match. It looked like Sheamus had this match won. He ended up hitting White Noise. He ended up hitting the Bro Kick. And then Big Show hops up onto the apron. Bam! Hits the WMD. Costs him the match. CM Punk picks up the win. Now, where you would expect CM Punk's music to hit, Ryback's music hit. Ryback's music hits, and Ryback makes his way down to the ring. I'm battling a sore throat, guys, so please excuse me. I've been battling a sore throat for about a month now. The weather has been absolutely insane here in Connecticut. I mean, one day it's like 50 degrees, next day it's like 70. It's real humid, it's real dry, so it's just wreaking havoc. I really have to apologize. I made a lot more mistakes than I usually do. I'm really raspy, a lot more raspy than I usually am, and I hope you guys are hearing me okay, because I'm not able to speak up as much as I usually am. But Ryback comes out, and CM Punk tries to escape, and the Lumberjacks just keep feeding him back to Ryback. Ryback hits a huge power slam, ends up throwing him, boom. I mean, just hit some huge power moves, and I mean, really just set the tone, really just put Ryback over. And like I said earlier in the night, the fans were embracing Ryback even more than John Cena, and John Cena is or usually is, the #1 babyface in most arenas they go into around the United States. Now, I want to know your guys' thoughts on the whole night. Like I said, I enjoyed the night. A couple things I would like to see different. The Kofi Kingston Michael McGillicutty match could have went a little bit longer, but I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to make McGillicutty look dominant, and then I know where Kofi Kingston's able to win this match with this maneuver. Alberto Del Rio and Ryder could have went a little bit longer. I understand what they were trying to do, but I would have liked Zack Ryder just to get a little more time. A Divas match would have been nice. Vicky Guerrero, I think it'll work for a few weeks, but down the road, I think they need to get somebody that's really going to put this whole thing over the top. So, guys, drop your thoughts below. Drop your feedback below. Can't wait to hear it. For the effing brand of wrestling and entertainment here on YouTube.com and the World Wide Web. My name is Bryan Crazy. I'll catch you later.